A reading from the Gospel according to Luke, verse 38 through 42. Jesus visits Martha and Mary. Now as they went on their way, he entered a village, and a woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. One thing is needful. Mary has chosen the good portion, which shall not be taken away from her." Now, as I was reflecting upon this passage, I think that many of us ask the Lord the same question, right? We ask, what do you want us to do? What do you want? What do you will from me, God, right? And we ask that a lot in prayers. And in fact, if you go just a few verses before, a lawyer asks Jesus, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And what is the answer he gives? Well, Jesus first says, what's written in the law, right? What's written on what does the law tell you? And the lawyer says, love God with your whole heart and soul and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And then as we read on, that's when he goes through the story of the Good Samaritan. And as Christians and Catholics, they're both two in the same, by the way. If you're a Catholic, you are a Christian. One of the things that the Lord asks us to do, which sounds like an impossible task, is to love God with our whole heart and soul and mind. And to love God with our whole heart, soul, and mind, that means we have to let go of the things that we think are necessary. And in the case with Martha, she was doing good things. She was preparing the house for the Lord. She was serving people. She was making sure everything was accounted for. But what the Lord is telling us is that he desires our heart more than anything else. That's what he desires. He desires our heart. He doesn't desire necessarily what things you are doing. Now, does the Lord value the things you are doing? Absolutely. He cares about your work. He cares about you preparing a place for him. He cares about you making your if God knocked on my door, if Jesus knocked on my door, I would feel pretty ashamed if I had a messy house, right? I'm sure many of you as well. Like, you'd probably want to clean up your house, make things well. But if the Lord sat in your living room and decided to teach you something and decided to tell you something that was really important, would you go in the other room and start cleaning the bathroom, or go to your laundry and start putting away the laundry as he's speaking? No, you would drop everything you're doing and listen to what he has to say. And I think for us as Christians, we sometimes get caught up into this mindset of believing that the only way we can please the Lord is by doing stuff, by doing more and more and more. And that's how we show God we love him. When in reality, while those things are important, the most important thing is prayer. That is the most important thing. That's something I was realizing, and I was praying about more today, because I was getting a lot of conflicting messages. No, I would say conflicting messages, but I was getting a lot of pullings and drawings to do more of the Lord's work. Like, I was thinking about, doing more outreach and doing more, just kind of other projects that I was thinking about. And then as I was looking at that and I was thinking about more things to take on, I started to realize how much it would affect my prayer life. Like, I actually wouldn't have as much time to stick to my prayer schedule. And I reflected upon that because in early March, I was moving my martial arts school from one location to another. And the entire week, I didn't get a chance to go to adoration. I didn't get a chance to go to mass. I didn't get a chance to, and sad to say, some days I skipped praying the rosary because I was so busy. And while I was offering that to the Lord, it was also very disheartening to me because I couldn't set aside, which again, I wouldn't. It wasn't like I couldn't. I wouldn't, if I was being honest with myself. I wouldn't set aside time for God, even though I know he deserves it, and that's the number one thing he cares about, is me setting aside time for him. And even if that means sacrificing my sleep, even if that means sacrificing certain pleasures that I would have, certain leisures. And what the Lord is telling us in this passage, at least what I believe he's telling us, is that put God first before you do anything else. One of the things that I do every morning, at least most mornings, some mornings I'm not faithful to them as much as I should, is saying a morning offering and saying morning prayers. By offering to God your day, first thing in the morning, it sets a tone for your day, right? In fact, it's even, if you're capable, if you schedule in a time, an hour to the Lord, it will affect your day in ways that you can't even imagine. I know for a fact that whenever I don't do that, my priorities are shifted. I start getting myself involved in busy work, things that are not going to necessarily move things forward in what I have to do. And as someone who has their own business, and I run a martial arts school, sometimes I get caught up in so many of the busy things that I fail to prioritize. And when I prioritize the Lord first, a lot of the other tasks that I have are opened up. There are things that I know that, okay, I should definitely get this done instead of that thing. And the one thing that we can't negotiate on and that we can't leave out of our lives is spending time with God. And this is what Jesus is telling Martha, is that, if you focus on me, all else will follow. All else will follow. And he says that so many times in the Gospels, right? He just says that, if you are consumed by the richness of this world, you're going to suffer, first of all. And second of all, you're not going to be living your life in the way that God has intended you to live. Because let's be honest, some of us put a lot of emphasis on our work and a lot of emphasis on the things we do, when in reality, it's not who we do that defines us. It's what we are. We are the children of God. And that's his first and foremost. That's the most important thing we have, is our relationship with God. And that relationship isn't defined by the things that we do. And this is like having a child, right? If you have a son or a daughter and you only value them as a son or daughter based on the things they do, is that really love? No, you love your children regardless of what they do, regardless of what good or bad they do. You still love them because they're your children. And this is how God feels about us, is that we are his children first and foremost, and we must come to him first. And we must prioritize our days around him. Because when you prioritize your day around him and you live your life according to his will, he's not going to lead you astray. He's only going to guide you. He's going to gently guide you on the path that is straight, right? For my yoke is easy and my burden light, right? A lot of the secular world today likes to put this lie out about Christianity, that it's somehow this religion that doesn't allow you to be free. When the thing that traps us the most, the thing that actually imprisons us the most, is sin, right? Being a slave to sin is the worst feeling in the world, because you can't live with something. This is what the whole season of Lent was really about. It was about giving up things that you are attached to, so that way you can focus on things that will give you fulfillment, which is God. Well, the only thing that can truly make us happy, and the thing that can truly make us feel complete and whole, is infinite love of God. Because think about it this way: if God was a finite, person or finite thing, which he's not, it'd be like taking a bunch of, it'd be like eating a donut, right? Like, you eat a donut, feels good for a bit, but then it's just gone. That feeling is gone. And with God, the feeling is never gone. Now, I want to make something really clear. You can't love God based on just your feelings, because if you only love God based on feelings, you're kind of entering into this relationship where you're only loving out of the sake of getting something, right? And I feel like a lot of Christians make this mistake, and I feel for you too, because I've made that mistake before. Like, I would go to adoration or pray the rosary, and I would get these wonderful contemplations, and then all of a sudden it just stops, right? And then because it stops, I've made the terrible decision to stop praying, because I valued my relationship on what is God giving me rather than reflecting on what he's already given me and what he will give me, right? We are put on this earth not because we have some sort of, or not because God somehow is fulfilling his obligation to create us. He only made us because he simply loves us, right? So it is a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to have this life. And to only go to God because we want something is not true love, right? Like, for example, my father and my mother, like, yes, will I ask them for help when I need something? Yes, but will I judge my entire relationship based on what they're giving me? No. And this is, to kind of go off in a different direction, I think this is why so many people today have this weird concept of love. And I think many of our young people, and I'm very young, I'm 28, but I know I sound like I'm an old person saying this, but I kind of recognize it because I teach teenagers. There's a very weird concept of love where the only way you value the love is based on what the person is going to give you. And you're not loving for the sake of God. You're not loving for the sake of love, right? And, and you guys that are married, you probably know this, like, in a marriage, it's not going to be like roses and daisies and everything's great all the time. Like, no, you're going to have times where there's struggle and there's a cross. But what Christ taught us through the cross is that no matter what suffering you go through, no matter what kind of obstacles you have, we are all called to love as Christ did, which is to lay down our life for everyone, not just the people we love, but for everyone. What good is that to love just the people who love you back? And certainly God loves us, right? He certainly loves you and me. And the thing that he asks of us the most, and the thing the most precious to him, is to love him back. When you love God back and you devote time to him, not only is he going to reward you in this life, he's going to reward you tenfold in the next. And that's something we got to remember as we are in the Easter season, that there is an afterlife. There is a life after death, and that these bodies we've been given will be resurrected one day. They will be united to our soul. And I mean, right now we are united body and soul right now, but when you die, your soul's going to separate from your body. And then at the end of time, you're going to get that body back. And you're going to have a glorified body just as Christ got his glorified body, right? And it's good to keep in mind that the things you do in this life, the things you do in this earth, it's a passageway to prepare you for the next life, right? Whether that's in purgatory or heaven. And if you fail to do those things, if you don't make God a priority in your life, and you die with that mindset, I can't say for sure what's going to happen to you, right? But if you honestly and truly love God with your whole heart and soul and mind, you are seeking the truth, you are seeking to love him, and you're seeking to love others for the sake of God, he will save you and he will take care of you. And I'll leave you guys on this one last note. Many people are going to come to you, at least this is my experience, and try to tell you that the way of being a Christian is going to limit you on what you can and cannot do. But you got to pray for those souls, because they are only looking things that are in front of them. They're only looking at things in the terms of material and life on this earth. But as Christians, the greatest joy that we have is the resurrection, right? Without the resurrection, Christianity would not be a thing, right? Our hope is in vain without the resurrection. And this just proves to us that, don't trade finite stuff for infinite damnation, right? Trade the finite stuff, the temporary pleasures, the temporary things, for infinite goodness, right? Infinite goodness. It will satisfy you. in ways that the world can never satisfy you. So, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless.